Hello and welcome to another episode of Did You Fall from the Christmas Tree? And you are listening to Mahima Mohan as usual. So before I dive into today's topic, let me quickly talk about a well-known broadcast journalist of America during the 1960s. His name was Walter Cronkite. He was respected, he was loved, and he was hated at the same time for presenting the news as it was. No editorializing, no judgments, no forecasting. And he said that the job of a journalist is to hold up the mirror to tell and show the public what has happened. And let me tell you, these lines are honest reflection of what media should be and what media should not be. And see, media has come a long way since then. And a society cannot survive without icons, right? We need icons and idols to epitomize or illustrate life. And we have generated many idols from Amitabh Bachchan to Narendra Modi. But in the recent years, our icons are less of a legend, but more of projections of our mind, our fears, and our worst anxieties. See, earlier we would approach a therapist and confess it all to them, but nowadays, what we do is we flaunt our fears and insecurities on TV. I mean, there's no other way we could understand the whole idea of Arnab Goswami as a journalist. You know what I mean? And today's topic is not just limited to Arnab Goswami, but the whole news media collective. And if someone comes up and asks me what Arnab Goswami is for you, I would say he's a great business development executive or a great salesperson. You know, sales happen because of emotion. Understand the emotion that will affect a sale, use that emotion and sell it. Let me start with some basics before I begin with how he fulfills his sales target. Truth is important in journalism, right? But what exactly is truth? Some truths can be verified. For example, I am a female. I am a male. The truth of these statements can be verified. You are beautiful. You are ugly. Truth of these statements cannot be verified, because these statements are statements of opinion. So this is what Arnab does. He focuses on statements of opinions rather than the statement of facts. He figures out which statement of opinion will help him gain TRP. He chooses a segment to make them happy, because if you make every other segment unhappy, he'll not have any audience, so he picks a side and sticks to it. Now he identifies which emotion appeals to the segment, fear, pride, ego, whatever, and he uses that emotion. Of course, not every journalist is like him. Some try to be the trailblazers of truth and investigation, but media is basically a capital-intensive industry. It needs money to compete with other channels with, subscribers in millions. Indian media is an irony-deficient zone. I'm sorry to say this. I don't know if the anchors and the news team realize that their words are absolute mockery given to the tone of their own coverage, which is a little more than the government's version. I used to think that the screaming about the nation, about patriotism and about Pakistan was done keeping an eye on the numbers. Because, in a difficult environment where media finds it extremely difficult to make money, every trick in the book seems legitimate and fair to them. The audience craves for it and channels gives it to them, ensuring that they're hooked to it. Because that's the mood of the nation, It's quite unfortunate, but still. And it makes business sense as well. But I was wrong. This seems like an aggressive hate campaign against the enemies of the nation. And news media are not just mouthpieces of Narendra Modi and his administration. They're basically the force multipliers. They are in place not just to propagate the Gomutra ideology, but also drown out other voices. And one thing that I've noticed is the fact that to be vulgar and immoderate is no longer wrong on the streets, at the same time in the news media studios also. I mean, you all know there's a leader of the pack, but most of the journalists, I can't call them journalists, but most of those people, those actors have been flag bearers of the decline of the basic standards of journalism. So no matter how excellent your communication skills are, how good your research team is, or how much relevant topics you're discussing, if you're holding a damn debate, hold it like a debate. Many a times when I watch Mr. Goswami's debate, I have this urge to jump inside the TV and ask him to shut up. Like straight up ask him to shut up. Because, sometimes I feel like he and his fellow participants on the show looks like a group of fourth standard kids fighting over a lost pencil. Okay, I have to do this comparison. I'm not a comparison, it's like an analogy. I don't know how many of you have heard about this rock singer Janis Joplin. She was a late rock vocalist. Arnab and Janis Joplin have one thing in common, except the fact that Joplin is a legend. Both have mastered the art and science of making the loudest noise when they open their mouth. And it's said that when they lost Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix, a psychedelic rock guitarist, the same year, it lost a lot of noise. If all the Indian news channels are asked to observe 1 minute silence every day, the same thing could happen on the planet. For the longest time, I thought Arnab is an angry man. For the longest time. But that's where it stuck me. He's not an angry man. But Arnab is a hate-filled man. Aristotle, in his careful observation with categories, made a crucial distinction between what anger and hate is. Anger is directed towards an object, and when the object no longer exists, anger is extinguished. Hate, it has no object. Its object is self-perpetuation, and so every day it finds new objects to consume. So Arnab is not filled with righteous anger, but with sickness of hate. These alleged news channels have a broken business model. They pass off shouting garbage as content. Can you imagine? A sentiment of Hindu frustration and Muslim frustration has already been generated within us because that's what sells these days. See, the frustration existed earlier too, but now it's reinstalled in each of us. Today, mainstream media is no longer people's media, but media for Hindus. Today's media is against all traditions. What it seeks to do is fashion and promote and advertise a Bhakt who's devoid of information, who's information-less. And this is the baseline of democracy now. Its reference point has changed altogether. If you ask a question, you'll be accused of being either an anti-national or a urban Naxal or a Naxal or a Congress supporter or opponent of Modi. That's where it all boils down to. If one listens to the speeches of politicians, angry demeanor of news anchors, slogans grazing the TV screens and language of WhatsApp messages, a mental complex is quite apparent. What sort of insane country have we become that the love of India is always expressed through hate of all the people and words that will not be tolerated? What sort of country is this, so insecure and so resentful that it defines its cultural being not through diversity and vibrancy of its people, but through extraction of a promise of love at the point of a gun? I mean, we are living in a country where young people holding a meeting in the college campus are being hounded as, anti-nationals and tukde gang. Where other young people who live with some non-pathological common sense, celebrate the suicide of a man. There are groups of people creating groups on Facebook to spread hate against the enemies of nation. We are living in a country where a man can be lynched for what he eats and worships. And sadly, media channels are feeding on this mania, and it's feeding off the spleen they vent out every day. They should high time put themselves on a diet and curb their gluttony. They should behave so that the country doesn't become a public urinal in which we wallow on our own shit because we mistake it for gold. And media is no longer the fourth estate of democracy, as Edmund Burke coined it once, long back. It's the first estate of political parties these days. And let me tell you guys, there's a great dumb down happening all around. Dumb is basically a state of being that is inversely proportional to being knowledgeable. So while one can be dumb, I'm not contending that person cannot be smart, sly or cunning. For example, a street smart person can be a very capable hustler but not academically knowledgeable. So state of dumbness is a mix of self-centered stupidity that refuses to embrace new knowledge. And when ignorance takes the place of learning, it's not a joke anymore, guys. It's not a joke. Now, you cannot judge the truth of whatever I just said. It's a statement of opinion after all. So if you don't want to harm your brain cells or increase your blood pressure, choose your news channels wisely. Stay safe, stay healthy, and don't watch Debate with Arnab Goswami. I'll see you next week with another interesting topic. Bye!